Do you feel looked at? Do you feel observed by God when you're in this space? I do.
Thing.
Okay,
Rolling?
I'm rolling.
Scene 2A, take 1.
Action.
The Adam Kalkin Tennis Academy is partly inspired by the novel Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace, and also inspired by my own experience training as a kid to become a professional tennis player. Yeah, well, I was a serious player by the time I was 12, and by the time I was 18, I was seriously thinking about playing professionally. And you know, it was the first time that I did it, you know, lived tennis 24/7. I kind of got interested in this whole, you know, the big picture of David Foster Wallace. There's this incredible feeling in him and his novels, both of ambition and of sadness and of beauty, which I just found very touching. And I would say that all the sacred texts in the Adam Kalkin Tennis Academy and the handbook are probably all related to that same kind of visceral emotional feeling that you have, you know, but it comes from all different things, you know, so it comes from Weezer. I find some of that same thing in Bach. I find some of the same thing in certain Beach Boys, in the Beach Boys Pet Sounds album. So there's this kind of, it's like this, this twilight feeling, and you know, this feeling of the absolute fragility and beauty of life, you know, which can be extinguished at any moment and is absurd regardless. The radio tower, strangely enough, again, somehow got built into the show, but there was this very important radio station, WHYY, in Infinite Jest, and that really captured my imagination. And so then we decided to make these kind of, this relationship. We decided to build a radio tower in another part of Melbourne, and connect it to the Tennis Academy, and to make kind of a disembodied voice, kind of an idealized voice of what the Adam Kalkin Tennis Academy is really about. So I created a bunch of sacred texts, which include interviews, music, chanting, literature, philosophy, cosmology, and all these kind of things are the subject matter of the radio station, which plays 24/7. The viewer and the artist, there's a lot of ambiguity as to, you know, it's not so clear cut, and the frames of reference in everything we do are not so clear cut. So it's not where the edge of the Adam Kalkin Tennis Academy is not very clear. You know, it's not really clear when I'm acting. It's not clear when I'm being myself. So there's somewhere, it's some other kind of social, intellectual, and philosophical space that I'm creating at the Academy.
Are you excited, Adam?
I'm very excited about this because I sense that I'm going to be getting on a rotating tennis ball very soon, and you know, as the director of the Adam Kalkin Tennis Academy, where else would I want to be? It is both you know, a character that I'm playing, and it's also me at the same time. So, I mean, it's really, what's interesting is the architecture of the situation. And the show, as you know, is a lot about architecture and kind of, if I can say, meta-architectural concepts, like what happens when you do something different in a museum, what happens when you do shows inside of shows inside of shows, what happens when you do something where the boundaries are very, they're not clear, and they're moving, and they're dynamic at the same time. So it's, in a way, it's a piece of living theater and a piece of living architecture, where architectures are kind of colliding and overlapping each other, disappearing, reappearing, and so it's you know, it's in a high state of flux. One of the most important things about being an artist is it gives you a certain kind of freedom, or a certain kind of liberty, a certain kind of license that you don't, you know, that's culturally bestowed, that we probably all have in our lives, but nobody actually ever considers taking advantage of it. And so it's nice to be able to use that magic, that license in a temporary period, and to, you know, to create things that you couldn't create without that, you know, sort of temporary suspension of disbelief. Thank the Adam Kalkin Tennis Academy for participating in the Adam Kalkin Tennis Academy. He's an interesting guy. This message is brought to you by coffee. I enjoy it.